I think there's a reason to expect complex reasoning to not be as difficult as people might have thought, even in advance, because a lot of the tasks that AI solved very early on were tasks of various kinds of complex reasoning. So it wasn't the kind of reasoning that goes into when a human solves a math problem. But if you look at the major AI milestones over, since 1950, a lot of them are for complex reasoning. Like a chess is, you can say, a complex reasoning task. Go is, you could say, a complex reasoning task.
I think there are also examples of long-term agency. Like winning at StarCraft is an example of being agentic over a meaningful period of time.
That's right. So the problem in that case is that it's a very specific, narrow environment. You can say that playing Go or playing chess, that also requires a certain amount of agency, and that's true. But it's not like, it's a very narrow task. So that's like saying if you construct a software system that is able to react to like very specific, very particular kind of images, then or very specific video feeds or whatever, then you're getting close to general sensory motor skill automation. But the general skill is something that's very different. And I think we're seeing that. We're like, we still are very far, it seems like, from an AI model that can take a generic game of Steam. Let's say you just download a game released this year. You don't know how to play this game, and then you just have to play it, right? And then most games are actually not that difficult for a human. Like,
what about Claude-based Pokemon? I don't think it was trained on Pokemon.
Right. So that's an interesting example. First of all, I find the example very interesting because, it was not trained explicitly. Like, they didn't do some RL on like playing Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
But obviously the model knows how it's supposed to play Pokemon Red because there's tons of material about Pokemon Red on the internet. In fact, if you were playing Pokemon Red and you got stuck somewhere, you didn't know what to do, you could probably go to Claude and ask it, Claude, like, I'm stuck in Mount Moon, and like, what am I supposed to do? And then it could probably be able to give you a fairly decent answer. But that doesn't stop it from getting stuck in Mount Moon for 48 hours. So that's a very interesting thing where it has explicit knowledge, but then when it's actually playing the game, it doesn't behave in a way which reflects that it has that knowledge.
All it's got to do is like plug the explicit knowledge to its actions.
Right, but is that easy?
I'm not sure I understand why. Like, okay, if you can leverage your knowledge from pre-training about these games in order to be somewhat competent at them,
yes,
I feel like that is some evidence of, okay, they're going to be leveraging a different base of skills.
Yes,
but that with that same leverage, they're going to have like a similar repertoire of abilities, right? If you've read everything about whatever skill that every human has ever seen.
I mean, a lot of the skills that people have, we don't have very good training data for them.
That's right. What would you want to see over the next few years that would make you think, oh no, I'm actually wrong, and this was like the last unlock, and it was like now just a matter of ironing out the kinks, and then we get the thing that will kick off the, dare I say, intelligence explosion.
Yeah, so I think something that would reveal its ability to do very long context things, use multimodal capabilities in a meaningful way, and integrate that with reasoning and other types of systems, and also agency and being able to take action over a long horizon and accomplish some tasks that takes very long for humans to do, not just in specific software environments, but just very broadly. Say, downloading an arbitrary game from Steam and something that's never seen before, it doesn't really have much training data. Maybe it was released kind of after its training cutoff, and so there's no tutorials, or maybe there's no earlier versions of the game that has been discussed on the internet, and then accomplishing that game and actually playing that game to the end and accomplishing these various milestones that are challenging for humans. Like, that would be a substantial update. I mean, there are other things that would update me too, like OpenAI making a lot more revenue than it's currently doing.
Is the $100 billion in revenue that would, according to their contract, mark them as AGI enough?
I think that's not a huge update to me if that were to happen. So I think the update would come if it was in fact $500 billion in revenue or something like that. Then I would certainly update quite a lot. But $100 billion, that seems pretty kind of likely to me. Like, not, I would assign that maybe, 40% chance or something by the end.
I mean, what is this like? If you've got a system that is in just producer surplus terms worth $100 billion. And the difference between this and AlphaZero is AlphaZero is never going to make $100 billion
I agree.
in the marketplace, right? So just what is intelligence? It's like something able to usefully accomplish its goals or your goals. If people are willing to pay $100 billion for it, that's pretty good evidence that it's like accomplishing some goals.
Sure. I mean,
people pay $100 billion for all sorts of things, right? And like that itself is not a very strong piece of evidence that it's going to be transformative. I think
people pay trillions of dollars for oil. But the oil is not. Like I don't know. It seems like a very basic point, but like the fact that people pay a lot of money for something doesn't mean it's going to transform the world economy. If only we manage to unhobble it. Like that's a very different claim, right?